Welcome. This is live TV. Welcome to another edition of Community Cop. My name is Michael Graves, co-founding member of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. And today I'm going to be by myself, but I got to get it right because I don't want to answer to Noel Leader and Vernon Wells and Eric Josie and others. So my cohorts are not here today. They on community cop assignment. Noel Leader, Julian Harper, and Father Lucas, they on community cop assignment. At least that's what I've been told to say. So in any event, I wish them well and the best and certainly hope they complete their assignment. And my assignment today is to do this show solo. So in any event, let's get started. And by the way, if you're watching on public access television, that's fine, but if you don't have that, you can watch us on MNN.org, ManhattanNeighborhoodNetwork.org. Tell a friend, as Noel says, tell a foe, and let them know that at this time, this is, as James Padnor told us, this is truth and real talk. So let's get started right away. From the outset, this is the birthday. Tomorrow would be the birthday of Rosa Parks, 1913, and Rosa Parks obviously is one of our heroes. She stood up. She stood up when other people sat down, and even though physically it was the reverse, she sat down, but she was actually standing up when she sat down, and we would be remiss if we didn't remember the great Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks might not have been the first. We had Mary Louise Smith, as well as Claudette Colvin, had similar incidents, but did not get the support and garnered support that eventually became the Montgomery bus boycott. But in any event, we have to always remember the great contribution of Rosa Parks. She was a card-carrying member of the NAACP and certainly the predominant organization that they had to deal with at that time was the White Citizens Council in Montgomery. It was not a traditional or Ku Klux Klan organization. It was another white supremacist organization. So we have to be mindful of that, various tenets, but all the same branch of that same tree of white supremacy. So big ups to Rosa Parks, who I was honored to meet on several occasions, and big ups to her for her standing up by way of sitting down, which elevated our people. Out of it obviously came the Montgomery bus boycott, as well as SCLC and the elevation of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And that entire movement. It certainly played a key role in the civil rights movement. So let's always honor her and all that we do and all that we accomplish in life. We need to look back at people like Rosa Parks, and certainly not forget the spark that was set by Emmett Till, obviously. But in any event, let's get started right now. And the first thing is, we'll deal internationally, then we'll get nationally. Speaker Boehner from the House of Representatives, he has invited the Prime Minister of Israel to come directly head to a joint session of Congress without even speaking to the American President, Barack Hussein Obama. Certainly this is out of order. It's never been done before in America's 2.5 centuries of existence as a government. It's never happened before. And so Boehner has chosen to do this to a black president, to totally disrespect him and act as if he's not there. Obviously, Boehner does not look at President Obama as his president. So I guess he's functioning as if America does not have a president. So he's showing his racist tendencies by just going through, instead of going through the proper protocols, he's chose to directly invite Prime Minister Netanyahu. Well, let's see how that turns out. And certainly, if that's one of your concerns, we'll hear more about that later, when we do the call-in. We'll do the call-in on time this time, and maybe early since I'm here by myself. But in any event, that's one thing. The second thing, we'll stay with politics. the Majority Whip, Steve Scalise, he is the Majority Whip now in Congress. They've, obviously, they've taken over the House, which is, no real great surprise, but they've taken over the House of Representatives. And you have Steve Scalise, who's the Majority Whip, and that's actually the third in the chain of power positions in Washington, D.C., and he has, it's been revealed that he participated and went to a white supremacist meeting in Louisiana. And so I don't know whether he's just admitting to the one that everyone knows about or whether they were others, but he has a long-running relationship with David Duke and that white supremacist group. So for him to say that he did not know and was unaware of their politics, you know full well when you're in the political game and you are invited by any organization to come and be a speaker and to be a guest of that organization, you know something about that organization before you say yes. You find out what it stands for with the foundation, maybe its mission statement, its history, things of that sort. And so obviously and knowing David Duke, he knew full well it was white supremacists, and he went there. And obviously in days going by, certain elected officials have said they had to do that to get elected, which was the politics of that day. But certainly Scalise can't say that in this day. He can't even use that excuse that old-time Republicans and Democrats used to use about it was the politics of the day. So Scalise, the current number 3 person in the Republican Party, he visited a white supremacist organization and just writing it off as, oh, I didn't know that's what they stood for, because obviously he's not a white supremacist. We all know that. So let's go to one more political thing, and then we'll come back here locally. The Friendship 9. The Friendship 9 out of South Carolina were 9 dynamic students who chose to, in 1961, to sit at an all-white count of, I think it was McCory's, which is similar to like a Woolworth, store. Chose to go to the lunch counter and demanded that they be served at that time, and they obviously were arrested and had to do 30 days in jail. And it wasn't your traditional 30 days in jail. It was 30 days where they had the old chain gangs back then. So not only did they have to do the 30 days, but they had to do 30 days for violating Jim Crow by hard labor, chain gang, out there, just all, you've seen how a chain gang functions back then. You've seen old movies or old documentaries. Well, they had to do that, and they were just last week vindicated through the process of law. A judge threw out their conviction from back then in 1961. Jess and most of them are still alive. I think they might have had one that made its transition. But, some say better late than never, but it should have never happened, where they were convicted just for their constitutional rights, trying to uphold them, and they were arrested for that. So to those who consider it a victory, and I'm sure that the deep sentiments that run so deep, in the undercurrents, they felt good. They accepted the vindication of that due process. So to those who feel it's a good thing, it was a good thing that they were vindicated. There are a lot of people on the books who went to their grave as criminals and felons, and they didn't commit crimes. So I'm sure for their family members anyway, they would feel good about knowing that the family name has been restored fully. But to some of us, we understand that to stand up to white supremacy and all its machinations, it's a badge of honor. So if you're arrested, in the African family, you're not a criminal, you're not a felon or anything like that. You're one of those heroes and sheroes that are undergirded, that is constantly undergirded our people. So big kudos to those who do that. And your reward not only is in heaven, but you also have an earthly reward because you have the respect and admiration of your people for trying to do the best you could given those situations. Okay, now, one last thing. Here in national news, Marissa Alexander was given house arrest last week, and she was looking at possibly 60 years from Corey Alexander. Angela Corey, pardon me, I'm saying the name wrong. Angela Corey was the person who obviously got national attention in the Trayvon Martin case. She's the same prosecutor, handpicked by the governor. And she was the one who would put on a lackluster case, acting as if she was trying to put Zimmerman in jail, and it was all an act for the cameras. So after that, well, actually around that time, shortly after that, the Marissa Alexander case came up. She vigorously went after Marissa Alexander, and Marissa Alexander claimed those same Castle laws, that it was self-defense, and actually had a white man, her former husband, who was beating her and beat her several times, put her in the hospital, and admitted that this time he was beating her. In his words, he was trying to kill her. She could have taken her weapon and resolved this whole situation by putting 2 or 3 in him. She didn't do that. She did something very, very humane by shooting up in the air. She either shot up into the ceiling or a wall, but she shot away as in a warning shot. And she was rewarded by Angela Corey by trying to put her away for 60 years in this second time. But initially she was looking at about 20 years, 20 to life in jail for a warning shot in a state that has Castle laws around self-defense. Now, you don't even need a Castle law to function because you have that right to self-defense already, but they have that law. So instead of understanding that as a woman she was being beaten by a man, and I didn't see those women groups come out, like now, National Organization of White Women. Where were you during the Marissa Alexander case? Where was all these gun rights, NRA, where were they? When Marissa Alexander was looking at a life sentence. So you could take your pick. These are all white supremacist organizations at its foundation because it speaks towards white rights, state rights, whatever you want to cloak it in. So in any event, you have Marissa Alexander now, because the nation is looking at them, they have decided to put her under house arrest for the next 2 years. And obviously there's stipulations when you're in the house arrest. You are allowed to go to pick up your children in the car. You are allowed to shop, to buy food, and things like that. But you constantly have to check in. And your movement is very, very limited. And obviously you're wearing the ankle bracelet. And so she's not free. But she's not incarcerated within a penal institution at this time. So again, she should not have been there. Most people in her condition at that time of being beat would have resolved that, and her husband would have had a forced transition period. But the state of Florida, being what it is, chose to prosecute her as opposed to lifting her up as a humane human being for not taking his life. They should have done that, but they chose to prosecute, and that name keeps popping up, Angela Corey. So if we looked at her history, I'm sure we'd find a whole lot more prosecutions of blacks, certainly unnecessary. So let's keep that in mind and salute the efforts of all those from all over the country who was concerned about the future of Marissa Alexander and her family. At least that's somewhat of a victory, but her record needs to be expunged and she should be off of house arrest as soon as possible. And I hope that her legal team is working on that, because it's just not enough to have her out of a penal institution to someone who never did anything at all, you know, never had a problem with the law at all, and now finds herself on a house arrest like a common criminal. Now, let's get to one thing here locally that many of our people miss. Now, the day of the storm last week, I think, was Monday night. It started into Tuesday. Tuesday, an interesting notification transpired. While the city was on high alert relative to the storm watch, while everybody's eyes and ears were concerned about the storm watch, while everyone was concerned about having the proper food in the house, all the things around emergencies in the house, gas in the car, being able to bunker down for maybe the next 3 or 4 days without coming out of the house, have the necessary things on hand. In New York City, Police Commissioner William Bratton made an interesting revelation. He talked about this 350 strategic response group, which is dedicated to disorder control and counterterrorism protection, capabilities against attacks like the hostage situation in Sydney, you know, and the deputy commissioner who will be in charge of it is John Miller, who obviously has intelligence ties. He just was moonlighting as a reporter, as a public relations person for various stations, whether it be ABC, NBC. I mean, he has all that. He had interviews with Gaddafi and other world leaders during the time where he's even, I think, several so-called top terrorists that he had met with. I think Osama bin Laden was somebody that he had a direct meeting with when he was supposedly hiding at that time. So Miller has a very distinct history that that we should look at. He's not just a news reporter. He's more than that. And proof of that is now he's heading this task force. So I would ask all of you out there, why do they have a strategic task force that's training in long and short arms and all sorts of chemical weapons and disaster control and all these various things? Why would they have anything to do with so-called disorders? And among them is protests. Now, I thought a protest was as American as apple pie and flag waving. But now they have a 350, other than a 35,000 man police force. You now have 350 unit right now, which obviously can expand, dedicated to counterterrorism and protests for demonstrators. Now, you would think that there are other, well, whether it's the Joint Terrorist Task Force, you know, that's NYPD/FBI, things like that. Obviously, there's a CIA component also within the NYPD. So that intelligence aspect, we know is there whether we like it or not. There's the demographics unit. There are various units within the police department that are all dedicated to some form of intelligence gathering. But this new one that has the power to investigate also is not just like it's there to stop things and set things in its proper order, so-called, but no, it has the power to investigate. So if they characterize you or any of your actions as unsavory, you're going to get a visit from them, and they are trained on the level that you would train people for anti-terrorism, you know. And but as I said, it doesn't smell right when this unit is dedicated also to protest, because we saw in Ferguson, and that's why I believe the White House sent Eric Holder to Ferguson, was because they exposed themselves when they came out with fatigues. You know, obviously, LRAD, MRAP, tanks, what have you, the sound cannons, what have you, and all these equipment, long arms, in fatigues to peaceful protesters. It sort of gave you an indication of what's in store for the black community in this country in the near future. So they got ahead of the game in these trinkets that have been given out under the 1033 program, I believe it's called, going back to the mid-90s, but elevated in 2006 under the current president, President Obama. So when they got ahead of the game and just couldn't help but use the toys they've been given, it exposed police agencies all over the country. Because now, if you figure Ferguson has that, then what does major police departments, whether it's NYPD, LAPD, Chicago PD, and other ones, Philly, and the like, well, what do they have? Because these are major urban centers, urban, you know, code word for black and Latino. So, you know, you have these cities, what do they have in the closet if Ferguson has that just to control 20,000 people, and specifically that 80% that are black? You know, that's what their concern is. So in any event, to show and to demonstrate that type of force to intimidate the black community is a precursor to things in the future that certainly our community will be looking at. And so Ferguson in no way was an isolated incident. So if you see these types of strategic response groups germinating in your local police departments, wherever you might be, don't be surprised. So I'm not too much surprised about this unit, but this is a real quantum leap to stretch counterterrorism and in the same sentence, protest. The two don't mix. You don't need that type of response. You don't need that type of police officer, the ones that are dealing with protesters. A community affairs officer can talk to a protester and basically work out what the details, which way are you walking, the time you're coming, the time you're leaving, your entrance route, your exit route, you know, and all those logistics around that can be done through the community affairs aspect. But to have other units involved and you make that quantum leap where the two does not exist. I mean, the two should not exist in the same space. You should not ever use peaceful protests and counterterrorism all in the same sentence, because one has nothing to do with the other. And by the way, when you hear things like hands up, don't shoot, there's nothing anti-police about that. That's a call to the legal system for justice. When you say something like, if you're protesting and you're saying, I can't breathe, that is nothing to do with being anti-police. It's nothing to do with being anti-government. Those are statements, that's more or less a clarion call to the legal system for some, just some better results than what we've been getting. That's a call out to the legal system and nothing more. You know, there's nothing inherently evil or venal about saying something like, I can't breathe, or hands up, don't shoot. Because nobody wants to get shot with their hands up. And certainly if you can't breathe or your breathing is complicated at that time, you do want some moderation of, from that chokehold. You want them to at least let you go enough while you're being cuffed or what have you, to at least allow you to breathe, at least allow your diaphragm to expand and contract the way it naturally does. So it's nothing inherently evil about that should even catch the notice of a special unit within the NYPD. So basically, I've covered the things, and I've done it in 27 minutes. Noel, if you're watching, I did it in 27 minutes. So I've covered all of these subjects, and at this time, we can start the phone calls early. As I told you from the beginning, I'll try to get to them early. So the call-in number I can see is on the screen at this time, and so that anytime you want to call in, you can do so at this time. And big ups to just want to say before I even get started on the phones, want to commend the organization CMOTAP. CMOTAP has started the forums under, this is African Heritage Month, which I didn't mention. Even though we all know it needs to be always mentioned. This is African Heritage Month or Black History Month or whatever you want to call it. And at this time, they're giving a series at the Clark House. It started last week. It was a debate between, I think it was Du Bois versus, I think, Marcus Garvey at the time. So next week I'll be up there and I'll be debating the whole thing, who was more important, Malcolm or Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So that's what we'll be debating at Clark House this coming Sunday. I think is 288 Convent Avenue. So come to the Clark House Sunday at 3 o'clock, and it should be a wholesome debate where we can all learn and get new points on these two great men. Obviously, I'll be doing, as I said, Dr. King, but certainly by no means is Malcolm a slouch. Malcolm is as great as they come. So let's, at this time, let's go to the phone calls. First caller, where you calling from?
I'm calling from Harlem. How you doing, Mr. Michael Gray?
Oh, brother. Good to hear from you.
It's good to hear from you, Mr. Gray.
Come to our town hall. We're going to reschedule it once the weather gets better. Please come to the town hall, brother. Question or comment?
I would definitely try that because I miss y'all. And I have a comment. When you first came on, you said you're there by yourself. I want you to always remember you're never by yourself. We're always here with you.
Thank you, brother.
Love y'all, and y'all have a good one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Stay strong. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Mike. This is Kareem from Harlem.
Alaikum salam.
Yes, sir, brother. First thing I want to speak about is the disrespect that our U.S. Congress and the House has against our president with Netanyahu coming here and speaking to Congress. And yet, Obama loved the white man.
Yes,
but yet and still, they keep showing you that they hate him. They hate him for everything that he's brilliant about. And he speaks about the fact of ISIS being vicious and their barbarity and the way they just killed this recent person. But yet and still, what about the barbarity and the viciousness in which black people are being murdered here in America? I don't hear him speaking and saying nothing about that.
That's right.
Second of all, brother, we would be remiss if we didn't say big ups to brother Carter G. Woodson. Because in this month, this is Black History Month.
Right.
And I just want to say lastly, teach the young, teach each other, and keep doing a great job, brother. And may you be blessed. And keep y'all brothers, keep doing what you're doing. Peace.
Thank you, brother. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Next caller, I see 3 calls on the board.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Harlem. Good afternoon, Brother Gray. How are you today?
Good, brother. Yourself?
I'm doing fine. You're holding it down. You're holding it down.
Thank you.
I want to say, in regards to Marissa Alexander, I found out about that over the weekend, and, I really find it really bad that she's on house arrest for shooting up in the air. She didn't hurt nobody. She didn't shoot anybody. And she could have very easily have, put a couple of caps in her husband, and she chose not to. And for her to be on house arrest, I really feel that's an injustice. especially when you have that idiot George Zimmerman running around here that keeps getting arrested, thinks that he's above the law. But, you know, one thing we have found out about people like that, it's only a matter of time, and he's going to get caught up in his own evil doings, and he's going to serve some serious time behind bars because obviously he hasn't learned his lesson from Trayvon Martin. And I really hope that they expunge that shooting from her record, because I think at this particular point in her life, she would have taken any deal just to be with her children, and that's what it all came down to for her, is to be with her children. Continue doing a good job, Brother Graves, and may God speak.
Thank you, brother. And the caller points out a very important thing about Marissa Alexander. She had the option to stand her ground the same way white folks have been standing their ground in Florida. She chose a more humane route, just to warn him to stop his aggression. And the tragedy of it all is that she was just looking at 60 years. Angela Corey was trying to put her away and silence her for good. And, you know, thank God that, you know, house arrest is preferable to the penal system, but and she's at least reunited with her family, her children. But the fact is, this is unprecedented to do something like this. But all of the cases of blacks who have tried to, literally all of them, have tried to use the stand your ground laws. It has not worked well for them, but it obviously works well for whites. Next caller, question or comment, where you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Newark.
Calling from Newark?
Inwood, the top of Manhattan.
Oh, okay, good. Jersey, okay.
No, Inwood, Manhattan.
Oh, Inwood. Okay. I thought you said Inglewood. Okay, no. Inwood, go ahead.
A simple point. I found it interesting, if not convenient, that when you addressed slogans during a march, that you never mentioned, what do we want now? We want dead cops and we want them now. You didn't mention that at all.
Okay, I'm glad that you mentioned that, sir, because Fox News had doctored a tape and made the sister, I have the actual tape where the sister actually does not say that. She says that dirty cops, bad cops should go to jail, and she inferred that they need to go before the legal system. So that's not accurate. I know what you heard, but it was
that wasn't
Fox.
Just one person. That was a group chant, and you refused.
No, it was not. It was a doctored tape that Fox News has put out there. That's why you people will never get anywhere but the show you're on. You're all pathetic. Okay, thank you. Next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Well, that only shows you the state of affairs. When you mention that this was a doctor tape, and by the way, you can there's a few lines open. You can call in at this time. When you have a situation where a tape has been doctored to set up to make people believe that that somebody said something calling for dead cops. That was not the case. I heard the actual entire comment. That person's life has turned into a living hell. Pressure being brought to bear on her. It's a sister who lost her family member. I think that I'm trying to remember. A member of her family was killed by the police department, and she started peacefully protesting on where she's at. And those the actual chant, that was not the chant, because I heard the entire chant in its completion, and she was not calling for death to cops. She was talking about bad cops should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law and end up in a penal institution based on a vigorous prosecution. That's what it was. So it was not calling for deaths to cops. Next caller, where you calling from? Welcome to Community Cop.
Now, I'm going to get hypothetical for
where you calling from?
I'm from Harlem.
Oh, the same person again.
Huh?
Oh, no. Okay, Harlem. Go ahead.
All right. Now, I'm going to get hypothetical for a while, okay?
Yes.
Now, I'm a cop, right? I'm not a cop, but I'm going to act like I'm in a cop's shoes, right? A white cop, right? I'm in my patrol car, right? I see Now, thousands of people's on the street.
Quickly, brother. Quickly, brother.
I don't focus on nobody but the male black. What do? I get out, I approach him, and then an altercation starts, right? Then the male black ends up dead as a result of me shooting him. So, I don't want to be held responsible for his death. What do I have to do? I have to blame somebody. Who do I have to blame? I don't want to blame myself. So who do I put the blame on? Why do I don't want to blame myself? Because I don't want to be held responsible.
Well,
who do I put the blame on? I blame the victim. And that's what they will continue to do.
Well, in Clinton Hill, as we well know, and I'm sorry that I can't remember the name of the victim right now, and I know Brother Canty would know the name of the victim. It's on the tip of my tongue. As we well know, in Clinton Hill, there was 2 undercover cops standing on somebody's property several years ago, and the brother went down, came out of his house and told him to get off of his stoop, and he ended up being killed by those 2 police officers. And that was in Clinton Hill, so it's describing what you actually said. There was no commission of a crime.
That's what they do, and that's what they will always continue to do.
Right, and he demanded that they remove themselves from his mother's house, and they refused to do it. An argument ensued, and he ended up being killed by those police officers.
And as soon as that happens again, you better believe Sean Hannity and the rest of those jerks on Fox News, they're going to always blame the black victim and exonerate the white cop.
Thank you, brother.
This is what these people are paid to do. This is how the system is structured. And that's exactly what they're going to do. Okay, brother.
Thank you, brother. Obviously, it's an uneven playing field, especially relative to the court system. So your concerns are duly noted. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Rockaway Beach, New York.
Okay, good. That's okay.
Yeah, the problem that we're having here is communication between 2 people, 2 groups of people. And unfortunately for the New York Police Department, which I adore cops, a lot of my friends are cops, we need cops. But when it comes to anything where they may be held liable about, it's always turned into their best interest. And what the police department doesn't understand is that that's what makes the gap between people even more wider, is the fact that they never deal with their accountability of a situation. It's never that way with the labor, or I should say the police department, union and so forth. It's always seen as though the police are right all the time. And after you do that, and especially when it's directed towards a special group of people, there's not going to be much peace there. And they don't accept their accountability. And it's a shame that we live in 2015 and we're living in a time like this.
That's correct. Thank you for the call. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Bedford-Stuyvesant. My brother, how are you this evening?
Blessed and highly favored. Go.
I'm loving that. Let me share this with you. The caller that just called and whatever that was he was attempting to do, what I'm asking all of you, all the callers, and all the listeners on your program today, Michael, since you're solo, is to know that these are minds of humans who have no ability to be able to think for themselves. Those of them that know who they are, who believe that they know who they are fearful of you, Michael Graves, and every other somebody that looks like you. It is fear that you, Michael, and all the brothers that look like you, all the ones that they haven't been able to imprison or kill, is that they know you are the greater guy. You are the greater human. The Creator created us, and the rest of them came after. They cannot accept the fact that you could ever be anything else other than what they put you and claim you to be, less than they. That's what they want, Michael.
Thank you for the call, sis.
That's what's going to happen. And you have a good day, and I'll see you again soon.
You too. Certainly, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for the call, and I'll just tell you something about, I didn't say it, the white man said it. They did a survey and found out that the people that watch Fox do not read, and most of them still believe the president is a communist, and they also believe that he's a Muslim. So, so much for Fox, listeners and callers. Next call, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yeah, how you doing, Michael Grave?
Good, brother.
Good. The sister's words was pretty nice. I like those words.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought to our attention about this new task they got going. You know, after them acknowledging Missouri after the killing of our brother Brown and the Garner case in Staten Island, it's more of the younger generation that's calling more fire to this country than the older heads who are leading us down the wrong path. And I think they want to control it. It's that control again, brother. But I'll pray to the God of our fathers that we don't allow this here tactics that they're doing frighten us from the path that we have to go. Yes. And let's remember, you are of your father. To Barack Obama, he is of his father. You can switch up, but you are of your father. Mm-hmm. Have a great evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother, for the call. Yes, next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, where you calling from?
Oh, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
How you doing, Mike?
Good.
Good that you're on. I think that, I got a comment. I think that black men have to start protecting their families, We seem to have a problem with thinking that we don't have the right to protect our families, but we have the right, like any other people, to protect our families. And I think that we need to step up and start protecting our families.
Well, I think you're right. I remember the movie Deacons for the Defense, where the brother was saying that he was trying to protect his daughter, and the white man said, basically he said something like along the effects of, "Nigga, you don't have the right to protect your daughter." So obviously, in their mind, they feel that black women are property of theirs, so they can do whatever they want to our women, rape our women, beat our women, shoot our women, and they expect us to just stand there and do nothing, But the fact is, we do. That's a part of our obligation. That we should be protectors, not only providers, but protectors. And we should protect our women. And our women, the same way our women protect the children, we should protect the women, because that's the way it's done in other communities. And we reserve that right to protect our women. So certainly I appreciate that call.
Okay. Have a nice day now.
Okay, now, thank you very much. Thanks for Jersey checking in. New Jersey in the house. Good. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Okay, Harlem.
Harlem. Okay, go.
How you doing? Yeah.
Question or comment?
Michael Graves, what's up? How are you?
Oh, okay, brother. Go.
Good. Okay, I'll be real quick. I just want to say to the brother that called in before and the young lady before, they had some really profound words and things like that. And I got a question for you, Mr. Michael Graves. What is your trajectory as far as all the sinister plots and schemes that is going to happen between now and this next election? And as far as and could you explain to me a little bit more about the brother who was killed on his stoop in Brooklyn, and also what happened to those two black females who those two cops, those two black females in Brooklyn, wherever they were, they attacked they attacked that brother. This is not going to stop. And like the brother said, we have to protect ourselves and our family. Hotep, reinstate automatic. Be well. Thank you, Michael Graves.
Well, thank you, brother, for the call. I wish that Brother Harold Wilbert or Brother Canty would call in and just remind me of the name, because I'm sorry that most of the times I'm decent on names, but I can't remember the name of the brother. But the situation was there were two undercover cops. I think they had set up a drug sting. And they were standing on that man's property, his mother's property, and he came out of the house and told them to remove themselves from the property. And I don't know how the dialogue went, whether they explained who they were or what, but words ensued, and he ended up getting killed by those two cops. So if that man tells you to remove yourself from his house, it should not translate into a homicide. And they killed that brother. I can't imagine if a white guy comes out of his house and tell two guys to get away from his property, that he's going to turn around and get killed. they might have explained what they were doing and asked them for the time to do it or the availability of space to get the job done. But in any event, he ended up dead, similar to Dorismond refusing to a cop who's asked for where to get some drugs at, and he say he doesn't know, and he ends up getting killed behind that. So I'm just saying that only black folks can end up getting killed, was not committing a crime, was not even forcing any dialogue, but in any event, just by saying something, whether it was disfavorable or what have you, end up dead without a weapon, and then no prosecution to come after that. It's just totally ridiculous, but these are the things that we have to go through. So when we get these people from Fox, who don't read, by the way, and that's white people saying it, by the way, they don't read, they're not intellectually curious, so they want to grapple and just run away with the whole thing about somebody, a slogan during a protest where it's already been proven that those were lies. That's not what the sister was saying. She was calling for justice. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hello, brother?
Yes, brother. Where you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Queens.
Oh, Queens. Good, good, good. Question or comment?
It just seemed awfully suspicious that warehouse over there with all those court documents and so on and so forth, all of a sudden goes up in smoke when silver is brought down. It just seems so. It reminds me of the family that's like set things on fire for political reasons and for political gains. It just seemed awfully suspicious about that.
Yeah, it might be duplicitous. It might be political gain and also economic gain. So that is rather peculiar. So that's nice observation on your part. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hey, Brother Mike, how you doing? The brother's name was Shem Walker. His name was Shem Walker.
You coming through a little fuzzy. Try it.
But I wanted to ask, with this 350 unit,
you got a lot of distortion in the background. Brother, we're going to have to go to the next caller. Can't hear anything you're saying. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Next caller. Try back on the landline. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop.
Didn't that happen in Bedford-Stuyvesant?
Actually, it was Clinton Hill.
Garden houses?
It was Clinton Hill. It's the Clinton Hill Fort Greene section. It really wasn't Bed-Stuy, but I
remember the killings. I remember the two dead. It was on his steps.
Right.
And he came downstairs because he didn't know who they were, and they killed him, and then they accused him of his death.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't think there was any accusations other than, I'm sure that they probably said he was resisting arrest and whatever other charge they want to, but he would actually. He was not in the commission of a crime, and he ended up dead by asking them to get off his property. So I wish that, if not, I'll come back next week and tell you the name. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop.
Mike.
Yes.
Do you know anything about the new Speaker of the House, Hastings, or what's that this new guy is?
No, I don't. Now, where you calling from?
From Harlem.
Harlem. No, I don't. But if you have something to share, go right ahead.
No, I was wondering if you guys know. I'll just take my, my.
Well, I'm taking mental notes. We'll come back with something next time. But
okay.
This legislature was that this is the same legislature that took Attorney Maddox's license away. So
right.
That tells you something about that August body.
Okay, right.
Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Manhattan.
Go. Question or comment?
The comment. I just wanted to. I want us to not lose sight of. We just want the police to be accountable. The main thing is to be accountable. We'll be friendly if they only be accountable. Just number one is accountability. And when they kill someone in a white community, they don't ask for training. Training is good, but you don't only ask for training when we get killed. They want us to be trained. They want to get retrained how to deal with human beings, how to talk to human beings, And the first, I think, with accountability, everything else will fall in line.
Well, let me ask you a question. You still on the line, right?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think the responsibility of a duly elected district attorney is to do? What should the district attorney do?
The district attorney should hand it over when a police killing. The district attorney should have a federal prosecutor.
Well, I mean, that should be a special prosecutor, but it wouldn't come out of the district attorney's office. I mean, that's something that the state should do. But what should a district attorney is voted in to prosecute criminals?
Right.
And if it's a criminal act, just because they're in uniform does not mean that they're not a criminal.
Right. It doesn't change. It's a criminal act. They should be prosecuted.
Now, one other question, caller. Given that pattern in practice, and I don't think any of us can argue that it's a clear pattern that's been going on for a long time.
True.
What should the governor or the state attorney general do?
Start the prosecutor, have them be accountable. That's all. The same thing, just like all the way up to even Wall Street, there's no accountability. They want us to be accountable for everything. But they have not even for the policemen, and then it goes up the chain. Nobody accountable. You know, they get, just like with Wall Street, they got a fine, but nobody was held accountable. Nobody went to jail. So it's going to happen again and again. They're just going to put another spin on it.
Okay,
I just
good.
want accountability. That's all.
Very good. Accountability.
That's it. Number one. Everything else I think should fall in, but the first thing is to be accountable. It's been going on so. I mean, even Richard Pryor talked about jokes about the police. Get out the car, spread your cheeks. Now go ahead and have a nice day. Nobody I mean, just
that's
accountability. Right. It's been talking about for a long time.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother, so much. Good call. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn. Mike, how you doing?
Oh, Brooklyn. All right. That's what I'm talking about. Go, brother.
Yeah, I'm one
Question
of them
or comment?
I'm one of them brothers that speak in the street, the Israelites, and black people need to stick together. We don't stick together as a people. We disrespect each other. We need to stand up and stick together as a people, and we got to start praying and everything else. That's what we need to do.
Okay, well, you're right, but we stick together a little more than people would give us credit for. But obviously, we're under constant assault and attacks. And not only from whether it's local police agency, but it's economic, it's the school system, it's intelligence gathering. We under so many attacks. Before we recover from that attack, there's another one, and they obviously they keep us apart from each other. Obviously, they try their best to keep us apart from Latinos, because if we ever organize blacks and Latinos, then these folks are in trouble, because we can call the shots and all the citywide positions will be held by us, you know, elected. But thank you very much for your call. One last caller. Thank you, brother. Last caller, where you calling from?
Yeah, this is Tommy from Queens. I think the main thing is accountability. It clearly is accountability.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so accountability is the order of the day. Accountability.
Yeah, because you know, when police don't police themselves, so they protect themselves. When they're really hired to protect and serve the community. But when they do something wrong, they don't account for it. So then the people get dazed by it, and it causes division that's like you see now. And we have to hope and pray when our young people go out in the streets that they would be held, the police will be held accountable if something goes awry. Because if I do something to an officer, I'm going to have to be accountable.
Right.
So it should be the other way, because they are the police. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you, brother. Great call. Wanted to take that last call, but I see that they've taken it off the board. So we'll stop right there. The bulk of the calls was around accountability today, and certainly questioning the whole legal process, our legal system, and certainly it bears a review, and whether it's judges, whether it's overzealous prosecutors, whether it's police officers that are making arrests that are uncalled for, inappropriate arrests. We've always questioned 100 Blacks in law enforcement, the bad side, the negative aspects of stop, question, and frisk. There is a positive merit to it. There's merit to it when it's applied correctly, when it's applied illegally. But overall, certainly stop, question, and frisk. We've been concerned about that going back 15 years. We were talking about it when no one was even listening. You know, in the last year of Giuliani's mayorship, you know, we were questioning it back then. So, so now, obviously, we still have our concerns with this de Blasio administration. Now, he said that he would not sign it. He would veto any legislation around a chokehold. That's your mayor. Mayor de Blasio will veto anything around a chokehold, does not want any legislation on the books relative to chokeholds. And under his administration, not Giuliani, not Bloomberg, do we now have this strategic response group. So we have to be mindful of all of that. So of course tomorrow, United African Movement, King Simon will be in the house, all roads lead to 1061 Atlantic Avenue. We want to thank certainly Veronica and Nat and the whole gang, and thank Richie for helping out today. So thank all of them, and to Noel, Sister Karen, please get better. And to everyone else, God bless you. Thank you for the calls. Tried to just weather this support solo. In any event, it worked out well. Tomorrow, United African Movement. Thank Millions Women More Women's Group for all that you do. Millions More Movement, all you do. See you next week. Take care. And as James Padnor said, truth and real talk. Peace.